hold on. You should see in your upper left-hand side a little button that says recording. If somebody would remind me when we finish with the Q&A related to the EDS and we start talking more frankly, remind me to stop the recording. Okay, so yes, go ahead. All right, so I'm going to, where are we? Hold on. Give me just one moment. I accidentally closed it a second ago.
I keep seeing your name on my screen.
You do?
That's because she's not muted. So if at this point we should all mute ourselves.
That's a great idea, Barbara. And speaking of Barbara, congratulations and a shout out to Judge-elect Leach. Very, very exciting. I'll warn you all, she's been lurking in some hearings online. Hopefully she's not going to get too badly trained by some of us. All right, I think I got my act together here, and I'm going to start. You all should see the PowerPoint. Let's switch to slideshow and display swap. All right, can everybody see that?
Which one?
Is everybody seeing the first page ED
Yes.
spreadsheet version 36? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me open up. Let me see if I can actually do. Let me do that. All right. So this is a presentation related to the very latest version of the spreadsheet. It's number 36. It's been out for, I don't know, 6 months or so. It's available on probably just about everybody's website, but it's definitely available on mine. Feel free to not use this spreadsheet as long as whatever you use complies with the uniform pretrial order, which is that it needs to be a joint spreadsheet. So I'm not saying that there will never be another version, but I would anticipate that there will be no additional meaningful bells and whistles, because I think it's got just about everything in it that it needs. So this is, oh, let me get my little clicker going here. Okay, so again, I'm calling this particular program Equit. You can use something else as long as it's got both people's stuff in it. I prefer, obviously, my baby, but not just because it's my baby, but because it also has a column for the judge, and it has some helpful things for the judge to use. So keep in mind, I know that this thing is intimidating to a lot of folks, particularly if you don't have a lot of experience with Excel spreadsheets. I totally understand that. At the heart of it, you input data and it does math for you. That's at the heart of it. So even if you only use it in the most basic way, it will still be eons better than getting two competing equal distribution spreadsheets that I have to figure out how they match. So even if you use it in the most basic way, don't worry. It's going to be an overview. We're going to start with some of the simpler things because I think will help train you as to how intuitive, I hope, but most of the icons and buttons and whistles are. There is a user guide that is, dare I say, exhaustive. And it will cover anything you want to do, any button you have a problem with or a question about. You can go to the user guide and should be able to find anything you need. So I'm going to concentrate on the most helpful bells and whistles, and that includes some of the most recent additions to the spreadsheet. Questions are great. Please address them to everybody, because I guarantee that you have the same questions everybody else has. If it's a technical question, R&D will be responding to those. If it's not a technical question, then when I take breaks and at the end, I'll be responding to those. Okay. Here's the new features over the last version that are going to be the most helpful. And by helpful, I sometimes mean to me, but that's important too, right? So the notes section, when we get to that, I'm going to talk about it a lot. That's a section where you get to put information that is helpful to the judge, and I love this thing. The import, this is really very, very cool. And what this means is now you will be able to have the petitioner do their spreadsheet and the respondent do their spreadsheet, and then merge them together. When we're done with the PowerPoint presentation, I'm actually going to open a real live Excel EDS worksheet, spreadsheet rather, and then I'm going to show you in real time how to merge those two things together. It's super, super duper. As a sideline, I want to talk about Teams for a second. So as you all know, in the Ninth Circuit, there's a push, the preferred platform for doing video hearings and such is Teams. I'm using Zoom. I'm going to be using Zoom until they tear it from my cold. Well, no, not that long. I'm going to be using it as long as I can. The good thing about Teams, not only because probably more of your judges in the Ninth are using Teams than are using Zoom, and that is probably a trend that will continue despite what some of us say about it. It does also have some really cool collaboration aspects to it. So currently, you will not be able to use Teams to both work on the spreadsheet at the same time, because our spreadsheet has macros, which are the little fun programs that makes it work better. But at some point, Teams is likely to deal with that problem and allow that. And at that point, I'm going to be sending you an email that says, hey, you guys need to get on Teams so you can actually both work on it literally together while apart. The last new feature that I want to make sure that I'm going to focus on or concentrate on a little bit is the default distributions. And basically what that means is the program now makes some initial assumptions about how to distribute the value based on who possesses or who's the title in. I know that I've said this before at other seminars. My initial thought when I go through the assets, assuming apples and apples, and you've got to look at, is it a liquid asset versus not a liquid asset and some of those things. But I certainly would rather have people end up with the stuff that's already titled or in their name or possessed by them. And so this kind of initially does that, and then you're going to be able to override it. Today's presentation, what you're going to see, it obviously looks a lot like the EDS spreadsheet that you're going to be working with, but it's a PowerPoint, so it's a little bit more visually focused, and you're going to be able to see, zoom in, and so it's going to look a little bit different. All right, let's get started. Why don't we start it? Oh, there we go. All right, so the spreadsheet is basically a collection of spreadsheet or pages. And I'm going to go back one. You've got your marital assets, you got marital liabilities, you've got miscellaneous assets, and then for the liabilities, you've got the same thing. And then you've got notes.
Good.
Yeah.
This is Andrea. Is this actually when I go on the line,
I'm sorry?
I'll be able to pull up this form? When I go to do one on the form that you're just now describing, I'll be able to pull up this form. How am I going to remember all this? I don't know.
Well, so you've only seen one slide, Andrea, and I'm going to teach you real good. It's really not as scary as it seems, but the spreadsheet, the link to it is on my website. Yes. It's also described in the pretrial order where you can find it, but you can find it on my website, and it's Equitable Distribution Spreadsheet version 36. What I'm explaining though is that it's just very simple pages. You have the marital assets, you have the marital debts, you have a page each for miscellaneous stuff, and then you have a page for notes. And we're just gonna go through it. And then you have a summary page, which shows you what your distribution would do and who would get money if your distribution option was picked. And then it's going to show the court what their ultimate decision is about those things got picked. So it's just going to take a tally of the assets from the assets pages, a tally of the liabilities from the liabilities pages, what the net is, and then who pays the equalizing payment. And so we're going to go over this again pretty easily. All right, so Andrea, don't listen to this part because it's a tiny bit complicated. So you do not have to do this. This is not required. You can go in every single time and go to my website and get a nice, clean, fresh, new spreadsheet. That is not a problem. If you want to be able to have it in your computer and saved as a template so that it's clean and you don't accidentally put in other people's stuff, or you're not, mangling them as you do additional spreadsheets over time, you can save it as a template. I'm going to go over how you do that. It's not very difficult, but again, it's not required. You can always pull a fresh, clean one off of my website. That's not a problem. So if you do want to save it as a spreadsheet, you would go to, when you open it up, you're going to have this first page. And you're going to go up to File. And just like you would save anything, and again, these directions are also in the user guide in a lot of detail. So you go to Save As, just like you would if you were saving it as a regular, just like if this was for the Jones and Jones case, and you filled out everything and you did Save As, Jones and Jones, equal distribution spreadsheet, you're doing the same Save As. The only difference is the type of file that you're saving it as. So
Excel.
So when you open it, what you're going to have is an Excel macro-enabled workbook is what it is. What you want to save it as is not a workbook, because that will take away all of the fun math and bells and whistles. It will disable all of the macros. So what you need to do, don't do it like that. Don't do it as a workbook. Instead, you need to save it as a macro-enabled template. And that's all you have to do. You just have to save it as an Excel macro-enabled template, and it will be in your templates, and you can open up a new one every time and not ever worry about it having other people's stuff in it or whatever. Again, you don't have to do this. You can totally pull a fresh one from the website. The other advantage to doing it this way is that there is a settings page on this spreadsheet where you could change some of the settings before you save it as a template so that it's always the way you like it. And we'll talk lots about that in a little bit. So those are the advantages to doing it as a template. And then the macros will all work. All right, so getting started. This is the first page that you will see. The overview, I wouldn't even worry about that. It's very, very, very simple. It's meant mostly, frankly, for pro se folks. If you watch this presentation, you will know much more that's actually in the overview. Fill out your spreadsheet. It basically takes you to the very next page, which you can either do there, or you can use the tabs at the bottom. If you notice the tabs at the bottom, the case file, which is your first page, and then the assets, miscellaneous assets, assets notes, liabilities, miscellaneous liabilities, liabilities notes, and then the summary, which is where all the math is, the final math is shown, and then the settings, which we'll talk about. So download the user's guide. That's where that is. If I were you, I'd go ahead and download it. Why not? It's linkable. It's hyperlinkable. You can search it very easily. There's lots of frequently asked questions. Also remember, you are welcome to email me directly if you have problems. It is very typical that we can solve those problems a lot faster than you're going to be able to solve them beating your head against the wall. So feel free to send me problems. The next one is printable blank forms. The nice thing about this for your clients is that if you print those out and give it to them, they will be filling out the information in the exact same order that you'll want to be inputting the data into the spreadsheet. So that could be helpful to utilize for your clients. contact us, goes to my website, my page of the Knight's website, and then the last one is the Knight's website. All right, so either, at this point, you will either hit that arrow for fill out your spreadsheet, or you will hit the next tab to the right, which is case style. All right, so the case style, this is new and it's quite helpful. So you will be filling in, you fill in the case style, the number, the date of the marriage, and the date of filing. At that point, all of that information will now show up on every page of the spreadsheet when it gets printed, so that you can keep track of that. That's how you do that. So the labels is also somewhat new. And there's a couple of different things that sound similar that aren't. So I want to talk a bit about the labels. What this means is if the husband is the petitioner and the wife is the respondent, we're going to label the petitioner husband, if there's a drop down there, and then the respondent as wife. And what that means is that when you're filling out who has what, it will say husband and wife instead of petitioner respondent. And when we're doing the dividing, it will say husband, wife versus petitioner respondent. I personally feel like it's so much easier to keep straight in my head when using those labels. So I really encourage you to use them. So role is different. So you don't have to ever touch role if you don't want to. It is just there for your convenience. All role is who's filling out this thing right now, and are you worried about putting data in the other person's columns? So if you put joint, it means, actually, I think that joint is the default. I'm going to talk about labels first and then roles in a moment. So the default is petitioner and respondent labels. As I said before, if you, in that case style page, change petitioner to husband and respondent to wife, then what will happen is it will now be husband and wife. And that's very, very helpful. And the husband and wife above the, husband above those distributions. And then we've zoomed this in. So obviously to the right of that would be wife's valuation and wife's distribution. It just makes things a little bit easier to keep track of when you're on the pages. Roles, again, is who is filling the thing out. And you can ignore it and not do anything with it. In this example, the role is joint, that's the default. And that means the entire worksheet is available to write in. So if you accidentally put your petitioner's information in the respondent's column, it will let you do that. All the columns are unprotected, meaning you can write in any of them. If you put in there that the petitioner husband is the one filling out the worksheet right now, the spreadsheet right now, it will not allow that person to type information where they shouldn't be typing information. So handy, but not necessary. Totally just there for your enjoyment. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the, again, note, very simple. At the bottom are tabs. You put in your information for case style, and then we go to assets. There it is. You start filling it up, filling it out. We're going to take a little closer look. It's got various categories of assets, and when you see the possession, that's going to have a little drop down, and you're going to be able to put husband, wife, joint. And then you fill out the item or entity would be the descriptor of the thing, and then the valuation and the distribution that you would like. So again, this is zoomed in. We haven't put everybody's valuation. I'm sorry, this does show everybody's. It shows the husband valuation, wife valuation, and then the husband proposed distribution and the wife's proposed distribution. And this happens to be on the miscellaneous page, which is page 2. You may have lots of cases where you don't have miscellaneous stuff. This is where the piano, the Davenport, the pots and pans frankly, I wouldn't mind if you never filed any of these with the miscellaneous page filled in. That would be just peachy with me. Asset notes. This is where you put notes to the court to explain why it is your numbers might not seem to jive with the others, something important about the date of the valuation that you want the court to know, something about the valuation itself that you want the court to know. This is a very important page, and it doesn't always get taken advantage of maybe as well as you could. All right, liabilities pages, again, similar setup. The liabilities, various categories, and then we have miscellaneous, the next tab, and then notes for the liabilities. It gets filled out the same way. This is the new automatic distribution that I was telling you about a little bit before. So, for example, we're gonna focus in here. We're gonna do one example, which is the husband has the asset. And so you're going to use the drop down. It's the husband. You're going to enter the information. That's the address, the date of the valuation, and the valuation. Because the husband is listed there instead of wife and instead of titled, the entire valuation, it gets assigned to him. Now you can change that, like right now, you can go there and change that. The total distribution and valuation are dependent. So because you selected husband versus, because you selected husband, the distribution has to match the valuation. I will show you in a minute how easy it is to change that so that those two things don't have to equal each other. But the default, because the most typical situation is the distribution is going to match the valuation, and this will keep you from erroneously putting in, messing up the math, basically. So it starts with a distribution of the person you say owns it. You don't have to keep it that way, but that's how it starts. Example number 2, we're going to have held by the wife. All right, and because she's the sole possessor, it's going to end up over there in her column. Again, valuation will equal the distribution. Example number 3 is jointly held. All right, and big shock here. You wonder what happens. You know what happens. It gets divided. And again, you can change those $200,000 numbers, but but combined, they will need to equal 200,000 unless. Oh, I see. Oh, sorry. Yep. If you adjust the one, the other one will automatically be adjusted. And again, in most cases, those numbers are going to equal the valuation, and this is to keep you from accidentally doing numbers that don't make sense. Example 5 is if you do not want it to automatically calculate because you want to use, for example, a valuation number that is higher than the total distribution or lower. The way you do that is you just don't put in a possessor, and that means there will not be an automatic calculation. And so you can put in 2 numbers that do not equal the valuation for whatever reason you might want to do that. You can also disable the automatic for something you've already filled in. So if you want to go back and say, hey, that was joint and it divided it up, but I don't want the distribution to equal the valuation, you can just go erase joint, and that takes away the automatic calculation. And now you can change it to a distribution that does not equal the valuation. And then you can go back and re-enter the possessor joint again, and it won't recalculate. Example number 7. So if you go and have something that was labeled joint before you put the calculations in, and you change the valuation, it will it will equally distribute that additional $100,000. So you went from 200 to 300, and it's going to equally distribute those. Again, if you want to disable that so that those two numbers don't equal 300,000, just erase joint, get rid of joint. Or you can change those numbers so they equal 300,000, and you can attribute it any way you want to. That's just what it does automatically as a starting point. Okay. This is the settings page. And we're going to talk a lot more about it, but I just want to point out right now that this automatic calculation that we've been talking about right now, if you don't ever want it to automatically calculate for you because you want to have lots of valuations that don't equal the distributions, you can just go turn it off and put do not calculate in the settings page. If you do that before you make your template, that means when you open your template, you will never have the automatic calculation. Or in whatever spreadsheet you happen to be working on, you can say, for whatever reason, tons of these assets are valued at a different amount than I want them distributed because the separation's been going on since 1492, or whatever reason you might have. So you can disable it right there. Okay, summary page. This is where all the hard work of entering the data. This is the money shot here, because this is where all of the assets that get totaled are shown, and all of the liabilities are shown, and the equalizing payment. So when I received these, I'll tell you, one of the first places I look at the notes pages, and then I look at the summary, because I want to see what the proposed distributions, what they create, and who's going to have to pay who, so I can get a thumbnail sense for how realistic all that is. And then if your proposed distributions have your client paying the other one $50,000 or owing the other one $50,000, and I look back at the other pages and there isn't like money to do that, so that's where I start developing my questions. The important thing to realize about this page, the red is who pays. So in the court determined distribution in this example, the equalizing payment would be made by the husband in the amount of $23,000. The place where this gets a little bit confusing sometimes is when the liabilities are greater than the assets, and it may challenge your first glance and hit you as wrong, but it's always the red is who pays and the amount is what they pay. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have clicked through those and I didn't. That was my bad. Equalizing payment, and then all right, settings. I know this is scary. I know the settings page scares you. I get it. I'm just going to show a little tiny bit picture now, and then we're going to go over it in more detail later. There are some cool things there. I understand why it's nerve-wracking. It's not as scary as it looks. So this is the very last page of the spreadsheet. You've got there's a lot of little choices and things to play with. You may never touch it. There may be a couple of things you use a lot, a couple of things that you never use. You've got kind of how things look and layout options. You've got printer default options, and I'll tell you in detail what all of these are in a while. You've got some fun tools to work with. This is where you're going to be able to merge your co-opposing parties' spreadsheet with yours. And then this is a new section at the end, totally optional. You don't ever have to touch it. I built it, frankly, largely for the judges. And that's just a quick and easy way to see later what things that don't add up. All right, so I'm going to talk in depth a little bit here about the category toolbars. So this is a close-up of the marital assets page, the top left corner. And every single category, real property, accounts, retirement, every category will have a toolbar to help you in that category do some stuff. So it has these icons. This is the footnote link, and I'm going to talk a lot about this one because this is a really, really good one that I want you all to use more, and it helps you alert the court that there's a note about this item. There's an important thing for you to see, judge, go, it's going to take you to the notes page. So we're going to talk about that one a lot. This is move stuff up a row, move stuff down a row. This is add a row, and this is delete a row. So it's important to remember that all of these things work with the row in its total. So the entire row, not just the block that you've got highlighted, but the entire rows will be doing these things. So add rows, very simple. We're going to go look closer here at this assets page. Example 1, if you want to add a row, you hit the plus, and the row will pop up at the bottom.
Judge?
Yes.
You have a couple of questions.
Okay.
You might want to address them before you move too far.
Thank you, thank you. Let me see if I can. I'm having a hard time figuring out how to view my chat while here. Let me. There's my chat. Hold on just a second. So I'm going to go back to the question, everything automatically tallies. That's the whole point. You will not have to do anything to make those numbers add up at the end of those columns. So all of the math is automatic. You don't have to do anything to do that. Let me see. The question, if there's a problem with the user guide link on the website, I will get that fixed if there is a problem. The question is about closing cost consideration, and would you just make a note? Let's talk about that when I talk more about the hyperlink. So say you thought that the value of the home was $100,000. There's no mortgage, but you believe the closing costs are going to reduce. You think it's going to be sold. You want to reduce the value they each get. Then you would disable the automatic calculation so that your two distribution numbers don't have to equal the $100,000. And then you would do a hyperlink, and we'll talk about that much more in a minute. Wait. I will, let me see there. So, Aurora, let's talk about fees, enforcement, and those kinds of things at the end of this, but remind me of that question because it's obviously an important question. What other questions have I missed that may be better off done now? And is there anything? Does the value for qualified accounts like discounted for taxes? Again, we're kind of talking about how to use the equitable distribution. What I would say to you though, when we talk about the notes section, if you want to discount an asset for tax purposes, then, for example, say the asset is worth $100,000 and you think it should be reduced by 25% just for ease of my math brain, then you would put $100,000 in the value and then you would put half of $75,000 in the distribution, or you'd give it to one or the other for $75,000. And then you would link that $75,000 to a note, which I will show you in a moment, so that you can tell the judge, like, why is it that those numbers don't match? Because, you know, that's the first thing that I do when I'm going through the actual asset and liability pages is what seems hinky, like what doesn't obviously make sense. So that's where the notes come in. Patricia, yes, that definitely is a possibility in the future that there will be an ability to utilize other local programs and suck the information out of this one. This spreadsheet can be exported as a CVS file, and I believe it is hopeful that that may happen in the, I'm not sure when, future. All right, anybody else have a question right now that they want to ask before I move on? Okay, all right.
I couldn't figure out how to chat it. Usually when you're selling the property, I guess you do this in the note, but if they're selling and you don't know the closing costs, I just leave the amount the way I distribute it. Like if it's worth 100, you're selling, I put 50 and 50. So whatever they get out of it, they get out of it. Because how do you know the closing costs? How would you handle that?
So that's a great question. Frankly, if the house is being sold, personally, I typically take it out of the spreadsheet altogether. I think it is somewhat helpful to have it in there just to show what some of the numbers are. But at the end of the day, if the house is being sold, when I finish the EDS to attach to my final judgment, typically I would take it out and just deal with the house entirely separately because of those questions. And you don't know what's going to sell for either. I mean, I've heard the market is still weirdly good, but that could change any Corona day. So that is typically how I work at it. Wait, we got another. So theoretically, you could import. Well, I'm gonna let R&D answer that. It's really an R&D question. Very theoretically, yes. Okay, so I'm gonna move on here. Where's my little clicker? All right. So if you want to add a row somewhere special, it's always going to go. Oh, hold on a second. Now this is. That's not what I meant to do. Hold on just a second. I'm sorry. I was working to see the chat, and now I have messed this up. Okay. All right. I think. All right. Here we go. So if you wanted the row added below that first line, then you'd click on that, you'd hit this plus, and it's going to go right where you want it. If you want to add multiple rows, you just select multiple rows, and this will add as many as you've selected, and new rows will always go underneath. If you have a spreadsheet that has tons of items, in that scary settings page, you can change that 1 to 5 or 10 or whatever, and every time you add, hit the plus sign, it will add however many that you want it to add. Again, you don't ever have to use that if you don't want to. Now we're going to focus in on delete, which is the little garbage can. You can delete the last row just like you would add the last. Yes. Yes.
And someone else is seeing the edit PowerPoint slide display, not the presentation.
All right, that seems like that should be wrong. Are you saying that this is correct?
What he's trying to say is that we can only see the first page of the presentation PowerPoint. It's not really, we're not seeing what you are explaining.
We're not seeing the slide mode window. We're seeing the edit mode window.
How about now?
No, still
Nothing
not.
changed.
Need to click resume slideshow.
Well, it doesn't, I'm seeing it perfectly, but let me do this. We're on
Stop
50.
share and then reshare the screen you want. It's sharing the wrong
Right.
window.
Right.
Did that work?
Yes.
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 Okay. So I fear what happened, I mean, other than the obvious user error, is that me getting over to, I'm not totally positive that I've got this figured out well enough to get to, well, hold on, let me see if this works. All right, tell me if I screw it up again. What I can't seem to get to is, I don't know why I can't quite get to the chat. So you guys are going to need to let me know if you have questions about current stuff. You guys are gonna have to let me know because I just can't quite figure out how to get that up so that I can view it without messing things up. All right, so moving on. You should be seeing select the little garbage can to delete row. Delete will empty it and then delete it. So you're going to have to hit it twice so that you don't accidentally get rid of stuff that you didn't mean to. So in this experiment, if you wanted to get rid of that row, and again, remember, whatever cell you hit, it's going to get rid of the entire row. You hit the little garbage can and it will go away. And then you hit the garbage can again and the empty row will go away. So that's, okay. I'm not sure why those were glitchy. Sorry about that.
There's a bug in the animation.
Okay. And again, so I'm going to show you this one to keep in mind, but there's also, this is also in the settings page. If you print the spreadsheet, the default in the printer options is that the empty rows will not be printed. So you don't waste all that space. If you're emailing the document though, for example, to the judge, the empty rows will not automatically delete when you email it. You can go to the settings page, hit that delete empty rows, and it will make it more compact for emailing. Again, you don't have to do that. I don't have a problem looking at rows. Rows are not a problem. All right, so we're going to move on to moving rows. This is again within the category of real estate, within the category of retirement, within the category of in specific categories. You're going to use you're going to select the cell that you want to move up or down, and then you just hit those. You just hit the up and down arrows. Super simple. They do pretty much what you would think. If you want to do multiple rows, again, select multiple rows, hit down, and they will bump down below the next one. Footnotes. This is the notes pages. This is the thing that we're going to concentrate on a little bit here. So we're going to do a focused view here of the top left of the marital assets. We're going to look at this example. In this example, the husband believes that the full value of the marital home is not marital because it was owned prior to the marriage, and he believes only part of it is marital. So and he's he wants to make sure that the judge understands why he put the $400,000 in valuation, but only divided up 250 of it in the distribution. So it's super, super easy. You click the thing that you want to make the note about, and that you can click the valuation, you could click the date, you could click the actual address 124 Cat's Cradle. You could click any of those things. In this example, it makes probably the most sense to have the hyperlink, the link be at the number, because that's the thing that the judge is going to be like, hey, why is this number not match the distribution? So you select the thing that you want linked to the notes page, and then you go back over here. So it's the farthest left. That cursor is a little bit not quite as far left as it might be, but it's the back and forth, and that's really the symbol for the link goes back and forth. You're going to be able to hit that 400 and go to the notes page, and then on the notes page there'll be a hyperlink, and you're going to be able to hit that and go back here. So it's the back and forth. That's why we have that little symbol. So you hit that. Now, as soon as you hit that, you're going to go to the notes page will automatically open up with this little dialog box, and that dialog box is okay. You want to put this link in the notes page. Where in the notes page do you want it to go? And all you have to do is select where you want it to go, and you would just select the next block. There's going to be on the notes page, there's going to be petitioners and respondents. So whoever you are, you select the one that is next open, and as soon as you hit it, that will tell the program that you want to have it at that location. You don't have to type that in. That will automatically pop in there. Here's the tricky part. The note that you want to give to the judge, you don't type that in there. You don't do anything with that. That is just purely where is it going. So you hit OK, because it's figured out where you want it to go. You hit OK, and then this will automatically be in here. It will automatically put the category. It will automatically put what the item is. It will automatically put the date. It will automatically put the 400, which is the thing that you linked. So now, when the court hits on that, or when you hit on that blue 124 Cat's Cradle, that is a hyperlink now, just like you're used to seeing, like when you Google something or any other hyperlink that you run into. So that is now linked to the asset that you wanted it linked to, and you can go back and forth. And so the judge can just hit that 400,000, will be brought immediately here, and then this is where you put your note to the judge. And you say, blah, 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 blah. All right, super easy. And that's just a very, very handy way to just quickly get us focused on why it is some things may be different. And so the cursor, whenever you're around a hyperlink, will turn into a little hand, and that will tell you that your hyperlink is hot. And you hit it, and it'll go back to the 400,000 on the assets page, and then you can go back and forth between the two of them. Okay, example 2. If you go to, you've hit your thing that you want linked, and you've hit your little back and forth arrow deal, and it takes you to the notes page, but your section is full, easy breezy. You just click add a row, and it will automatically go there. You won't need to do anything else. It'll just automatically go there. And then you can put whatever note you'd like to next to the 1.4 million in the little note section. Okay, if you decide, say for example, the parties agreed at some point that the $400,000 property only had $300,000 of marital equity, and they each agreed that they were going to get 150 of that, and they fixed that on the asset page, and they both have the same numbers now because they've come to an agreement, and you don't any longer want this footnote. All you have to do is go to the link, highlight the little cell. Well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna go over this just a little bit better. So remember, this is still a hot link. So if you just go push it, you're going to go back to the 400,000. and then you're going to push that, and you're going to go back here. So to get to it, so that you don't accidentally end up at the assets page, we use the word navigate to it, meaning click on real property and then hit your over key, and it will get you over there. Yeah, so that you move over there. Or you press and hold the mouse over the link so that it doesn't send you back to the asset page, but it highlights. So get it highlighted in one of those ways. And then to delete it, you just go back and you unlink it. That's very important. Unlink it, because otherwise there's a hot link. And then you erase it by hitting the little garbage pail. And then if you hit the garbage pail again, that row would erase, but you can leave it a blank row. That's not a big deal. All right, so that's the category stuff, the little icons in the category section.
Judge?
Yeah.
Maybe a good time to take some questions since that was a lot of information.
Yes. I wish I could figure out how to get the darn. I wish I could figure out how to get the chat up without. Hold on a second.
Maybe everybody who has a question should just unmute and ask their question.
Hold on, I really can't figure out why I can't find it again like I did last time. All right, who's got a question? Oh, shoot. Hold on. Didn't mean to do that. That was an accident. I'm really trying to figure out why I can't get to the, no.
The back arrow.
Judge, is it under more, the three little dots?
Well, I tried that, and I feel like it's up somewhere, but it's not actually up where I can see it. Alt H.
If they want to type in chat and ask a question, I'll read it to you.
Oh, all right. That's a great idea. Once you type in your questions, and R&D will read them for us. I'm having a hard time finding that again.
Going once.
Come on, you can type. Well, just why don't you scroll up and read me any that you found that you think would be helpful.
Christy said that the link did not transfer the date from an example she created, I'm assuming. That's quite possible that the animation that you're showing in PowerPoint doesn't match up 100% with this particular example. It may be that the date doesn't transfer.
It's my, so Chrissy, when we get to the live demonstration, remind me, I'm gonna try that. It was my impression that the date transferred. I think that may depend on whether you're linking to the item or the amount. I'm pretty sure if you're linking it to the dollar amount, the date also transfers, but I'm open to being wrong about that, and we'll test that out. Other queries?
We'll certainly try it back here and see what's going on.
Okay. All right, so in other words, continue on.
Judge, I have a question. It's Andrea.
Sure.
For those of us who are illiterate, will I be able to, I'm getting most of it, but will I be able to listen to this online and follow through again when I go to use it?
So that's why we're recording.
Oh, you're recording it? Okay.
Yeah. So
I understand that.
The recording will be living on my on the web page, and okay. So yes, you can do that. No, it's no problem at all. It's no problem at all. Any other questions before I continue on? Okay. Okay, so this is, let's just go back. So this is at the top of each page, has some other options. Again, some of these you may never use. You don't have to. They're there for you if it's helpful. So we're going to make that bigger. Oh, sorry, I went the wrong way. Lock. I don't really want you to worry about that one too much. That's for bringing in things from external sources. As been talked about, it's dangerous. It's risky behavior. It's so not social distancing. It's going to be rarity that you're going to want to copy in things from external sources when you can't just merge it. But if you feel like you need to look into that, it's on the user guide. And you might want to email me, make sure that make sure you save a copy of whatever you're using before you do something like that. Again, this is the role. This is the exact same role as what is on the case style page. If you want to block some columns so that you don't accidentally put respondents' numbers and petitioners, you can do it at the top of each page. If you don't want to, if you're okay being careful, you don't need to ever use that. This is an easy way to get your print dialog from any page. It will print with the defaults that are currently set in the settings page, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. This is when you want to move rows from one category to another category, and we'll look at an example in a minute. This is when you want to merge things from multiple rows. We're going to talk much more about this after we talk about merging two spreadsheets, so don't worry about that right now. And then this is those new features I told you about that you don't ever have to touch if you don't want to. Just kind of fun way to look at what trouble spots, and I did that mostly for the judges. All right, so moving to, we're going to talk about print. So again, at the top of each page is a print button. And, oh, wait, yes.
There's a question.
Sure.
It's from Sherry, I think.
Okay.
If we want to add a link to a CMA for the notes section for the value of the home, can we do that? Or, for example, a link to Zillow or Kelley Blue Book values, or is that the whole don't add from outside sources?
So that would have nothing to do with the lock problem that I'm talking about. R&D, I don't know the answer to this question. Do you know the answer to the question?
I don't understand the question.
The question is, can you put a hyperlink to something out on the internet in the spreadsheet that a judge could use to go, for example, Zillow.com or something like that?
That's a good question. Their testing division hasn't tested that.
We're gonna when we do demonstration. I don't know the answer to that.
I would think that it's possible, yes, but I'm guessing.
Okay, we're gonna try it. Fabulous question.
Yes.
I can't wait to find out. Any other questions?
Judge,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So this is Sherry, if we're submitting this in preparation for trial, and let's say we're using bait stamp documents, for example, as well as exhibits, then perhaps in the notes, we would just identify the bait stamp as opposed to, for example, here's a link to my attachment of a CMA.
So I think you could absolutely, I think you would absolutely use the bait stamp in your example. I would absolutely think that you could do that. I think that would be a good use of the notes page. Okay, so print options. This is again in the scary settings page. You've got all sorts of defaults. So the important thing to know is the default is that it will print all of them, even the notes pages. If you want to change that, you can change that here in settings. Minimal ink. It will print in black and white and red. The red being the negative numbers and the black being the positive numbers, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in a moment. Oh, let me go back though. If you want full color, you can print in full color. Just beware that it's going to be that beautiful blue color, and you're going to run out of blue before you hit the summary page. So probably a fairly rare thing that you would want to do that. Now, if you were printing to a PDF, for example, and just thought, I just want it to be, I don't know, super duper pretty with all the color, you could certainly put on full color before you print to the PDF if you're just sending it out by email and not actually printing a hard copy. These are defaults. It will not print empty rows. It will not print empty categories, and it will not print empty spreadsheets. So as an example, if you don't have anything in the miscellaneous pages, it won't print the miscellaneous pages. If you'd like to change it, you can uncheck those. And then lastly, it will automatically print with a page number and timestamp. I can't imagine a situation where you would not want that, but you can undo that. It will also automatically have a cover sheet, which will look just like the case style sheet and have the name of the case, the case number, date of filing, and date of marriage and date of filing. All right, so those are the defaults. So when you hit print, you will get a typical print dialog box just like you would normally get. Now this one it says print to PDF. Normally, if you've got your printer set to your printer, it's going to open up with your printer listed there. And then you pick how many copies you want, and then you hit OK, just like normal. And this is the default minimal ink, meaning not the pretty blue, which is the red and the white. If you'd prefer it to be black and white, again, you just go to settings and hit black and white, and it'll just be black and white. The negative numbers will still have a little parentheses, and they'll still be in, in the correct column, so you can do it that way.
Judge?
Yes.
We've got some more questions. Would you like
Sure.
me to interrupt you
Sure.
or wait for?
No, absolutely. Please, why have this be any different? R&D, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is from Richard West. Could we do a hyperlink to exhibits we have put in evidence? I don't know how those are hyperlinked in your system.
I don't. If you're asking if you could hyperlink items that have been filed, I just don't know. Richard, what are you thinking there? Because I'm having a hard time thinking of what that would look like.
Judge, I'm thinking of, once documents go into evidence to support the numbers on the spreadsheet, when you do your review or in preparation for writing your judgment or making your determination, you can go right from the equitable distribution spreadsheet to the document that supports that number.
And when you say go to the document, I don't. Where would it hyperlink? Like where would that exhibit be living that you could hyperlink to it?
Well, I'm thinking more in terms of the way we're practicing now in virtual hearings, where, if, for example, if we have uploaded all of our exhibits to a Box account or a SharePoint or something like that.
Okay, now I hear you. It's to a Dropbox or something.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I can't wait to find out the answer. I would think, when we do our pretend try to go to Zillow, if you can go to Zillow, then you're going to be able to go to a Dropbox, I would think. So that's a fun question that we're going to investigate. That's a great question.
Yeah, you just need to be careful that links can break when the destinations move or get deleted or whatever. So
yeah.
If it's important, there ought to be a better way than a link.
So you could indicate for example, the exhibit identifying A, B, C or whatever. You could identify it and then link it. If the link doesn't work, I mean, it's not, we've tried. It's a great question though. We'll have to look into it. Good question.
Thank you.
Are we done if
Sure.
you're done with that question, there's another one.
Okay.
From Patricia. Do you require this to be e-filed or provided to you as an aid at trial somehow?
So
perhaps email.
The pretrial order indicates both filing it with the joint pretrial memo and providing it to the court electronically. I mean, I gotta have it electronic so that I can play with it and put in my own numbers and that kind of thing. But we also want it filed so that so that there's a record of what it is that you guys had in there. So for example, if I get it It's entirely possible, but by the time I'm done, I may erase all of the respondent and the petitioner's proposals and file it just with my columns on it. And if you want a record of what it is you wanted me to do, then it needs to be filed, you know, with the joint pretrial memo. I would also recommend, obviously, when you send it, if you're going to be doing this fun merge thing that we're going to be talking about, make sure you save a copy of yours, because there are definitely opportunities for things to accidentally get changed once you've sent it to somebody else. So always, you know, keep a copy for yourself that you can file if there's a problem and say, hey, that wasn't the numbers that I sent them or that I used. Any other questions?
And nothing in the chat room.
Okie doke. Moving on, we're going to move rows then. This is using the icon at the top of each page. If you want to move categories, in this example is like if you wanted to move one type of retirement to a different retirement account. So if you wanted to move that Putnam IRA down to pre-tax retirement, you would just select it. And then you would hit move. And then just like the link, it wants to know where do you want to put it. And so you hit where you want it to go, and it will automatically put in the address of that cell, because now it knows where you want it to go. And you hit OK. And then it moves the whole row. Again, the rows all go together, not just the cell that you've hit. So this is the exciting importing of spreadsheets. So this will enable you to have the husband petitioner work on his, the respondent wife work on hers, and then one of you can merge them together. So pop quiz, Michael, I'm sorry, R&D, you're gonna have to tell me who puts in the chat the answer to this question first, because they will get absolutely no prize whatsoever, but I will respect them. Where does Mockingbird Lane come from? And I want to see all your hands. I don't want no cheating on this. No cheating. Do not reach for your cell phone. Mockingbird Lane. If you're under,
we have a winner.
If you're under 40, you were never going to get this.
Allison Prestes.
Nice.
No, wait a minute.
Oh, wait.
No, it's not the Addams family, it's the Munsters. So Amy,
Desperate
good block.
Amy, nicely done. But Addams family was a totally legitimate, decent chance there too.
Carmelina has a good answer.
What?
Killing a Mockingbird Lane.
Oh, I know. That's what I would have thought of too. All right, so we are using colors for this one so you could just see how the merge looks a little bit better. So husband has filled out his spreadsheet, and the wife has filled out her spreadsheet. And they've decided to merge them together, which you will do in the import-export options. So it's important to note that the person who's doing the merge needs to have both of those items in their computer. So you're gonna have to actually save, if you're petitioner and you're doing it, you will have to receive the respondents and then save it in your computer. You're gonna have three options here. The one that you're most often gonna wanna use is the merge, which means I've got mine filled out, they've got theirs filled out, and I wanna put them together. And anything that is not an exact match, and by match I mean the descriptor, the address for the house, the descriptor of the Putnam IRA account number 892, whatever that is. If it's an exact match, they're going to merge entirely. If not, you're going to be adding those things. But in either way, you're going to have, you'll see that everybody's stuff will be in one. The replace existing data is another option. You would use that if, for example, you had been working on a version 32 spreadsheet and you wanted to move it completely into a new, fresh version 36 spreadsheet. That's when you would use replace, because you're just replacing the spreadsheet you're on with the new one. But most of the time, you're going to want to use merge. So you hit import file, and then you go, if you're the petitioner again, you will go and find in your computer the respondent's spreadsheet, and you will hit open, and voila, everybody's will be there. Both parties' info will be in the petitioner's now new and merged file. So if you look at, they both had Mockingbird Lane spelled exactly the same way, and so the valuations are there for both petitioner, for husband and wife. You'll notice that they spell the Cat's Cradle somewhat differently, and so both of their information is there, and we're going to show you in a minute how to easily combine those. And then this was something that the wife had that the husband didn't have, and so it's just added. At that point, when they send it back to the petitioner, I would think they'd be going, hey, wait, we need to find out what's going on with this asset that we didn't list. So if, for example, one of you used husband and wife, they changed the labels and the case style, husband and wife, and the other one didn't. They still have petitioner respondent. You can easily use this little doodad in the settings page to go in and replace petitioner with husband so that everybody's is matched up. Otherwise, in possessor, you're going to have a combination of husband, wife, petitioner. This you can just go in and replace that. Now, after you have done this merge, there are some helpful tools that will allow you to get them further merged because of, again, people spell things differently. You're going to have a list of multiples. So we'll show you how this works. And so here is, say, this could be a post-merge situation, and you want to get the things that are the same thing closer together. For example, the Cat's Cradle, that's the same thing. The Mockingbird Lane, that's the same thing. And if you want to get them closer together, you can sort by using the little triangle thing at the top of that category. And you want to sort the addresses. You're going to select that little icon, and it will sort the addresses. Oops, sorry, I didn't show that. I didn't show that very well. And it sorted them for you. I think this will be used less often, but you can also sort the possessor if you want to have them all be together, and it will sort them in descending order. I don't know that that's necessarily all that helpful all that often, but it's possible for you to do that so you can group up wife stuff, husband stuff, and joint stuff. Combining, okay, so after you've sorted them now.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. Is this a good time for question, or do you want to go on to combining?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Patricia had a question, and so did Aurora. Do they want me to read the question, or do they want to unmute and ask themselves?
I predict they want you to read the question.
Read, yeah, read. Oh, great. Patricia said, while I'm thinking about this, can you let me know if you have any if you have shared your forms with other districts, and if there's any agreement among the districts to use uniform ED forms like this one?
So I have shared with a few other circuits. I think the only way that even comes close to starting to happen is if this was made, if it caught on enough that they asked me to go, teach it at the circuit conference or something. We don't have a great way of, other than through our own CLE type seminars and conferences, there isn't a lot of other ways to make that happen. So even though you guys have to do all the work, and it's really very simple by the time we get it, it's still as scary to them as it is to you to a large degree. So I can't say that I'm making great headway on that, but I have sent it to some folks who've asked for it. I'm sure they wouldn't mind if you used it. I certainly don't mind.
Okay, yeah, I guess it depends on the amount of information that comes out of financial affidavits and things like that, whether it's a lot of work or not.
No. Any other questions?
All right. Aurora had a question.
Yeah.
For retirement accounts where the issues of tax consequences are in disagreement, how would you like the account and disagreed tax consequences listed? A, each party listing their final amount of the account and putting notes that one party put tax consequences, or B, each put the amount of the account and amount of the, some typing errors here. Put the amount of the account, and then in the separate tab of liabilities miscellaneous, a party could put their value of tax consequences and link it to the retirement account.
So
I'm just reading something. I had no idea what it means.
No, I get it. My preference would be that you put the amount as of the date that, to say date of filing, you put the actual amount in the valuation. And then when in the distribution, if you're the one who wants the tax consequence, you tax affect it, put those lower amounts in the distribution, and then you link that or the valuation, you link that to the notes. And then if you were the other person, you might say, well, I want the judge to know my feeling on this, why it shouldn't be tax affected. And so you'd put the value, distribute the full amount, and then you'd link it to your own note that says, no, here's why I don't think it should be tax affected. I think that would be the preference. I believe that would be the preference, if that answers your question. Any other questions?
Okay, I'm not on mute. Susan wants to know when this will be, the recording will be published.
Susan, chill, babe. It's Friday. I mean, so very, very soon. It literally copies. It will put a copy on my computer, and assuming it doesn't break it, I will send out a link to it. Is Monday okay, Susan? Is that soon enough? Is Monday all right? I will get it to you. And again, I'll list it on I'll post it on the website too.
I love the eagerness.
I'm with you, Susan.
Yeah, such eagerness. Okay. Anything else? All right, moving on. Example 1. So you notice we have New Smyrna Beach house and we have beach house. Those are the same thing. They just called them different things, so they ended up in 2 separate spots. So this is where we're going to use the funky combine, which is basically a forced merge. All right, so you pick the row that is going to receive the valuations. So this is the receiving row, or primary row, and then you pick the other one that is the one you want to combine upwards. And then you hit the little combine, and all that data will move up. Now you'll have a duplicate. Figure out what you really want to call this thing. Try to, blend the labels or whatever, make it always more information better. So then you can delete the one that you don't need anymore because you've successfully combined them. Okay, this is, again, this is fun, largely for judges. You don't have to use it ever, ever, ever. This is something you can do at the end when you've got your thing complete. In the settings is the automatic, which is it's going to look for 6 types of things and highlight if those happened. It's not going to fix anything. It's not going to change anything. It's literally just going to highlight these 6 things, and then you can get rid of the highlights after you make changes if you want to. So these are the things. We're going to go through them one at a time. All right, we're going to be looking here. Guideline 1. So the first thing it's going to say is if you have a number, a value, there really should be a possessor. And if when you hit review, this is the first thing it'll look for, and it's just going to highlight. It's just going to, that's all it's going to do. It's not going to change it. It's not going to move it around. It's just going to highlight it. The second thing it will look for is the court distribution matching the agreed distribution. So if you both agree that the house is worth 400 and each of them should get 200, or whatever, this will say, hey, your numbers match. Why don't you just go ahead and put it over in the court determined column, because you have the ability to do that. Or don't do that. That's okay too. Again, this is just letting you know like some things to look for. So when I get your spreadsheet, one of the very first things I do is I hit review, because I'm going to be like, oh, they agree on this? I'm moving those numbers over. So I can be one little tiny bit ahead. All right, the next thing it's going to look for is whether the valuation matches the distribution. So as we talked about before, you can dismantle the automatic calculation, which means you could have a valuation of $100,000 and a proposed distribution of $200,000 total, which would be very, very confusing, and there'd have to be some sort of issue with that. So this is going to just highlight, hey, those don't add up. And then you could say, well, I want to change it, or no, there's a reason for it, or whatever. And so one of the new features of version 36 is you can now put letters in instead of numbers. So this one I will be looking at really hard, because by the time we get to pretrial, I don't want TBD. I want to know why we're TBDing when we're getting ready to set a trial. So this is one that I would be, it would be useful for the judges to say, hey, wait, I got some questions about this particular highlight. And blanks also would count, would be part of that. Last 4 digits. This will say, hey, you didn't put the last 4 digits in, which should always be included, because otherwise things get super squirrely. And then the last one is, this one may or may not be of interest to you. It'll basically show you visually very quickly all of the ways that the parties are not in agreement. So that might be helpful to just get a kind of a visual overview of, like, is this 100% solid, hot, stinking mess, or is this only a 50% mess of a problem? So that's just a kind of a visual thing. So that's where the review options are. And again, you can do them one at a time, or you can do them all together. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So some of those reviews come in handy as far as the data cleansing is concerned. If there was a typo, like some of those numbers were 200,000, one was 200,000, one was 300,000. They just mistyped it.
Right.
It could indicate in instances like that, which would have an impact on the way the distributions were computed.
Right. Right. Certainly every wrong number is going to create a wrong subtotal, wrong total, and wrong ultimate numbers. Yeah, for sure. So again, not scary. You're not going to be changing anything. You're just going to be looking at some colorful highlights, and then you hit clear and they all go away, and you don't have to make any actual changes that you don't want to make. Formatting. Okay, this is again not something that you may ever have to use. Sometimes, and this is where it's going to be located in the layout options, and sometimes you're going to have a situation where things just don't look quite right. So for example, row background is missing, should be white, not gray. Just, these are not things that are going to affect the calculations. They're not, I'm not even saying they're necessarily things that need to be fixed, but if there's problems caused usually by using cut, Control C, which I've told you over and over again, is really, that's why we have the little garbage pail. That's why we have different ways to move things, because you don't want to be cutting and pasting in any Excel spreadsheet. It's just, yeah, don't do it. So, but when you do, because you'll forget what I said, things just get a little muffed up. Go to the settings page and roll through these 3 fixes, and the program itself will try to fix it for you. So another example would be borders missing. All right, I got to say that I have to stare at this really hard to see that border missing, and I am not particularly concerned about it. But if you're the type that doesn't want to have it, not perfecto, then that could be corrected too by hitting updating formats with the border hit. That was also caused by cut and paste. Example 3, your item looks like a hyperlink. It's a pretty blue color. It's underlined. It looks like a hyperlink, but it isn't really linked to anything. And you can tell because the cursor did not turn into a little hand. So it looks like a link, and your judge is gonna be cramming on it, thinking it should be going somewhere, but it's not going anywhere. You can correct that by hitting update formats. We're showing you there's 3 different ways to update the formats. Frankly, what I typically do is I just go in and do all 3 of them one at a time, because I can't really keep track which thing is part of what problem. So I just roll through them. You're not gonna hurt anything by hitting any of those. Another example is the text isn't wrapping. All right, so you just go and you hit that, hit update formats, and it'll correct that. All right, so again, that is on the settings page. You just hit update formats and then go back and hit footnotes and update formats, and then go back and hit formulas and update formats, and you will have fixed everything that can be fixed automatically.
Judge, can I
Yeah.
interject here?
Sure, absolutely.
There was a comment, a question, and a request earlier on where I know Richard was one, and I cannot remember the name of the lady who had the questions, but they wanted to paste hyperlinks into the notes section. Remember?
Yes.
I remember Richard's comment was he wanted to paste some kind of a hyperlink to a drop text file or Dropbox file.
Yep.
And then I'm sorry, I don't remember the lady's name, but she wanted to have Zillow or something pasted into the notes section.
Right.
That's a classic gotcha in this case, in that you're going to go to a website or some other location outside of the Equit spreadsheet system, and you're gonna drag and mark that link, and you're going to copy and paste it into the Equit spreadsheet.
Right.
That's where you're going to run into these formatting problems. Is they don't use the background colors, they don't use the same fonts, things of that nature, and that's typically where you're going to wind up with a formatting problem. If you want to rectify it so that you don't have Times Roman blasted in the middle of your Helvetica font, just use the reformatting function here, and that should take care of all the problems.
Okay, that's thank you, and that's definitely something that we will kind of test out a little bit. I hadn't really thought of that potential ramification, but it's a really interesting process as we all get more and more virtual. Those questions are really good ones, and I hope we can ultimately answer that in the positive for you. All right, so we're just going to go through the settings again. This is a way that you can limit the stuff that you're looking at. For example, if you want to not have the court determined columns because it's too much to deal with, or you just want to concentrate on putting in your valuations and not even look at the proposed distributions and just have less visually to look at, you can go back here and not look at so much while you're looking at it, and then turn them back on later. This is one of my favorite things, and I'm going to try to remember to show you in our short demonstration. You may notice that the column headers are frozen where they are, and you can only scroll the actual line items, the categories and things. I don't like that myself. I like to hit the it's actually defaulted to display freeze pane. I like to uncheck it, and then the entire page, including the header at the top, will scroll up and down. That's just my personal preference. And so if I were going to make it into a template, I would undo that first and then make the template. We just talked about these little weird glitchy things. It looks weird. Try this, it can't hurt it. This is if you merged and somebody used husband, wife, and the other person didn't, you can replace the petitioners with husband so that everybody's is consistent. You've got the print options. Again, it'll print without it'll print with everything unless you tell it otherwise. It'll print all. It'll do the red and black unless you don't want it to print the red, in which case go to the black and white. If you want to do full color because you're just only emailing it, you can do full color if you want.
Judge, you asked me to remind you about the red and submitting it to the clerk's office.
Yes, that is somewhat problematic. Filing it with the red sometimes does not come through very dark, and it gets kind of hard to read. So if you are printing it for filing, I might suggest that you go back and do the black and white for that one. I don't mind getting it myself with the red, because to me that's just kind of a little bit better visual cue that we're talking negative numbers. And then it's got these other defaults. Again, we got some tool options. If you want to add more than one row at a time, you can set it to do that. You can delete the empty rows if you want to before you email it to somebody. This is higher end sorting stuff that I don't think we need to delve in too much. And this is that automatic calculation. If you don't want to have your distribution have to match your valuation, and you don't want to be messing around with taking away the possessor all the time, then you can just click that. This is how you merge those two different equal distribution spreadsheets. And again, it'll default to replace. So you usually are probably going to want to merge, which is that last one. That's what you would normally want to use. And this is if you want to export your spreadsheet to a CSV, I always say CVS, to a you know what I'm talking about. And then the review that we went over here recently, and that's just totally if you want to just takes a look. Those are the 6 things it looks at and highlights them. Okay, so let's do Q&A, and then I will demonstrate the merge for you if y'all would like me to do that. Here, I'm going to get rid of, now I can see the chat, so I got rid of that. Okay, all right, so here's the merge. What could possibly go wrong? All right, I'm going to move that over there. Okay, now I can see the chat. That's so exciting. This I'm going to make go away. This, okay. All right, so I'm going to share. Okay, can you all see that? Can you all see that?
Yes, I can see.
Yeah.
Great. All right, so here's the real thing. We're going to go to our settings page. Now this is, I'm going to do,
macros.
I'm sorry?
Enable macros. Enable macros.
Oh, thank you, R&D. Yes, you always have to do the enable little, you won't be able to do anything without doing it, but yes, you always have to go to the little yellow banner and tell it, yes, of course, whatever you want to do. Is this trusted? Oh, yeah, it's trusted. Sure it is.
That's how viruses are transmitted in software.
We don't use the word virus anymore.
I know. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it's going to, even if you're a trusted source, it's going to ask you that question.
Yes.
It doesn't pay to disable that facility.
Right. Right. Okay, so we have, I'm going to do 2 different types of merge. I'm going to pretend that, actually I don't have to pretend. I've got a clean, new version 36. But say I was working as the petitioner in an old version 32. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring my petitioner's 32 into this new clean 36. And then I'm going to merge the respondent stuff in with my petitioner's 36. So our first step, we're going to go to settings. And we're going to go over here. Now, this is one of the few times I want replace, because I've got a clean 36 and I'm going to be bringing in a 32, and I'm not worried about losing anything in this current 36. So I'm going to hit import, and it's going to warn me, hey, anything you have in this clean 36 is going to go away. And I'm confident that I'm not worried about that. All right, and it's going to ponder my foolish decision to overwrite everything in this 36, but it probably will let me.
I'm not quite positive you hit the button.
Oh. He's so smart. Okay, so then my options here come up. So I'm going to go find the petitioners that I want to bring over. It's located in here. And hold on just one second. I forgot. I need to not have it open. Okay. I'm going to grab the petitioners. All right, I screwed that up. Hold on a second. Hold on a second, hold on. Hold on just a moment. All right. All right, let's try that again. I've totally hit the wrong thing. We're going to go to replace. Yes. Import. Yes, that's okay. We're going to overwrite. Now I'm going to the petitioners. All right, and that is merging those together. And so now we have all the petitioners' information, and the links that were in the spreadsheet that I brought over are still in the links now after post-merge, as you can see. So that all worked exactly as the way it was supposed to. Whew.
Is everybody familiar with the tabs that you're using to go from one page to another?
I don't know. The tabs are down here at the bottom. So getting started is where it opens up. Case style is where you start filling in your information. And then you got assets, miscellaneous assets, the notes. This is where the linking goes on between the assets page, and here's the notes, and here's the liabilities. And again, keep in mind when you fill that out, you got to use negative numbers. And if you don't, it'll tell you, and you just go put the negative in. Miscellaneous and miscellaneous notes. And then the summary, which is who owes who what. Right now, again, we've only put the petitioners in. So that's the only numbers there. So now we're going to bring the respondents in. This time, we don't want it to replace, because if we kept it with replace, it'd take out the petitioners and move in the respondents. We want it to merge. So we hit that. Yes, we understand that if they don't match exactly, it's going to just add them. And then I'm going to go up and find the respondents. And it is downloading the respondents now. And then when it's done with that, we will have the petitioners and we will have the respondents. And then we'll see that sometimes you're going to have to do a little work after that, because they weren't called exactly the same stuff. And this takes a little bit of time, and it usually goes through each of the pages. It's just, and it probably is taking longer now because we're going through the Zoom process as well. So I'll just show you quickly. I will show you quickly. So say we've got this one, and now we've got this one, and I'm control click, just like you would select any non-contiguous thing, because I want those together. And so I'm going to click both of those, and I'm going to hit combine, because that's what, and then that will combine the petitioner and the respondents. And so now I can go ahead, and get rid of that row, because we've already combined it up above. Now these two are the same also, and you can hit one and then hit control click to pick the other, or you can just push down the left of your cursor and just select them both that way, and then you hit combine, and it will force a merge, and then you can get rid of the second one. Let me show you. So if you'll notice, see how the this column up here, this dark blue column, always stays where it is? It drives me batty. I hate that. So I go to settings, and I undo display freeze pane. And now when you go back, you can go all the way down.
Somebody's got a crow in their office.
I know. Hold on. Hold on just a moment. Hold on. Sorry about that. My headset, it doesn't stay. It died. Okay.
It may be a good time for questions.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Question. Where's my?
Judge, I have a question.
Sure.
So I saw that you moved up the Highline Drive, and one person had listed it as jointly titled and one had listed it as titled in the wife's name. Would that be something that we would then move to the notes section to explain why?
You could totally do that. You could totally do that if there was really a disagreement about how it was titled. But you're making me think of something I didn't mention. When you could have combined going the other direction, meaning it's not just, let me see if I can find another example of that. It's not just because, so for example here, you can make, these are the same account. I could make this one the primary by clicking on it first and make this one the secondary and combine them. And it's just going to, that's, I don't
know what that is.
I don't either. I'm not sure what that is. I wonder if I could find another example to, no, I'm not sure what that problem was, but the first one you hit is where the stuff is going to go. And in the unlikely event that you have one saying joint and the other one saying it's a possessor, then you either need to come to an agreement about it or make a note about it. But typically, there's not a lot of question as to who has it. So I think notes are always the best way to go to explain that.
Okay, how are you doing on time?
We have, yeah. Well, if there's anything, at some point I'm gonna end this session as far as the CLE is concerned, and I'll stop the taping, and then we can continue to talk about this or anything else. Are there any other questions that are equitable distribution related? Somebody asked me about enforcement a while back. So I believe that we are all moving, I hope, toward more consistency in sanctions around these things. I guess I would say if you're the one who's creating the spreadsheet and you're not getting cooperation in it being either done by the other side for merge, or you've sent it to them and they're not filling in their part, I would just document in your joint pretrial memo that that's an area of conflict, that you did it on this date, that you sent it on this date, and at that point the ball's in their court, and I consider it the court's job to enforce the pretrial memo. You do what you're supposed to do, get that in the record somehow, and then it's a job, it's a court's job to enforce that. Just like with the joint pretrial memo, if you are doing your part and creating the memo and the other person is not, either filling in their portion or giving you the information to fill in their portion or whatever, you put in there, this is what I sent on this date, this is what I've sent on this date, I sent proposed stipulations on this date, and then that's our job to enforce that. That's really all you can do, is do your side. Any other questions about anything else you want demonstrated before I stop share? And again, for some reason, I can't see the chats right now, and I don't know why that is, but
Judge Greg Colvin had a good question about what do you do when someone's pro se on the other side? How do you handle this with pro se litigants?
So I would, I think all you can do is try. And I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't send a pro se litigant a list of proposed stipulations. They may do nothing with it, but let me yell at them. I mean, like making it look like you've made an effort to be fair, I think is all you can really do. So maybe you send them the printable sheets and your thing and say the pretrial order requires us to both fill this out. If you don't have the ability to do it electronically in the Excel, then you could write down your numbers on this thing. I mean, I get a lot of pro se people who, I've had pro se people figure out this and send it in. I've also had a lot of them that printed out the printable forms and they filled it out and sent it in. So I'd give them the opportunity to succeed or fail. And then you've done everything that you can do, and then we have to take it from there. Other questions or anything else that you want me to demonstrate on the actual spreadsheet before I stop that and get back to the...
I'd like to summarize very quickly what I'm going to look at based on the questions that came in.
Okay.
There was a question about the date not showing up in the links. I'm going to look at that.
Okay.
The link to the user doc, I think there was a question about whether that was working or not. Can footnotes contain links to external web pages and other sources? I'm going to look into that. I don't know what we can do about reconciling, formatting, or comma separated value files, exchanging information with family law software when they have a financial affidavit, but it's certainly come up, and I don't know what we can do about that at this particular point in time. And then there was an issue where you tried to combine accounts and it didn't work. I'm going to look at that. If anybody has any problems, they should let us know, and we'll look into it. And thank you.
All right, thank you, R&D. Awesome. All right, so that will end out the CLE portion. If you got to go. I'm now open to talk to you about pretty much anything you guys want to talk about, and I'd like some input, now that I can see the chat again, some input into what, if anything, you guys would like to see in seminars or webinars rather over the next weeks or months, and what we can do to help you do this better. So let me, pro se, we talked about that. How is the actual amount?
I had a question, Judge, at the beginning, remember? What I've done, and I'll use my own example, I probably didn't do it the way everybody else does it, but I've looked at everybody's policies, and one of the judges said, look at the order to see what to do about exhibits. Well, what I did was I just took my exhibit and I wrote at the bottom of them petitioners number 1, 2, 3, and 4, sent them to the other side, sent them to the JA and to my clients. So now everybody has them, and we stipulate to whichever ones would come in. Then I saw there was one of the little cards on it. Well, I didn't know people were using that, and I don't know how that's effective. So, and then it says call each JA and see how they want it done. That, that's a problem. Do you call them? Do you write them? Do you what?
So,
All done.
Okay. Let me talk about some of the things that I've learned by doing like multi-hour, lots of exhibits, Zoom hearings. I'll talk about for me and then what might help you with in other divisions. For me, I want the exhibits emailed to me directly, and it's super helpful to have them titled, the PDF titled in a way that's going to make it easy to identify later. So for example, PA financial affidavit 3/2019, for example. So to have, whether it's petitioner or respondent or H&W, either way, the letter of for the identification, and then a short descriptor of what it is. If that's in the title of the PDF itself, very helpful. That's easy breezy. The problem is so many of them are just titled A, B, C, and D. So now what I have is I've got 2 A's, 2 B's, 2 C's, 2 D's, and I've got to look at each one of them to figure out whether it's the petitioners or respondents. So titling the PDF is very helpful. On the actual item itself, I don't require it to also be marked, but if you wanted to write an A or a B or a C on the bottom of the first page, I think that would be okay. There's not any obligation, I don't think, in any of the divisions to mark it for identification beyond that, because you can't, to me, you're gonna, if you put a tag over it before, I mean, the clerk requires that physical tag anyway. So at some point, the judges are having to get these things to the clerks, and then they're getting those physical tags before they go in the evidence locker. So to me, it's just really identifying enough so that it's not confusing for us. So the way I do it is everybody sends me the evidence. I put it in a folder on my computer for that case. And then during the hearing, I share, the lawyer will say, Judge, could you pull up exhibit B, marked as B? I pull it up. Judge, could you go to the second page, or could you scroll through it, or whatever? And I manipulate it, and then it goes into evidence, or it doesn't. A evidence control sheet, also super important, because that's how I'm keeping track of which of these items I'm going to be emailing to the clerk later that are going into evidence. So that's also super important. But those are, I can tell you, I don't think you could go wrong. Well, 2 things. You can't really go wrong by sending the exhibits out to everybody you can think to send them out to. You can't go wrong by identifying them more clearly in the title of the PDF. The question is going to be whether or not you're in front of a judge who has the technological know-how to share the screen. If they don't, then you could share the screen, but it would be probably important for you to know how that judge does it. I'm willing to do it either way. I've had lawyers share the screen and do the documents. I've had it where I did it. I've had it where it was a combination. But if you have a judge who isn't going to be able to share the screen, then you're going to need to know that so that you're prepared to do that. Or in the alternative, if that judge is willing to say, we're all looking at the same thing, and even though we're not eyeballing it at the same moment, we're going to trust enough that, when we talk about the A, that's a financial affidavit from March of 2019, yes, we're all in agreement. That's what we're talking about. We're in agreement. That's what the witness is physically looking at. And you could do it that way too. To me, that's a little low tech, but it would absolutely work as long as everybody's looking at the same thing and you've got some agreement. So if that answers your question.
Judge, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you still wanted it to be recording, because it's still recording.
Thank you so much. Well, hold on.